to the Cannabis Minority Report podcast powered by the National Cannabis Industry Association, also known as the NCIA. My name is Khadijah Adams. I will be your host today and moving forward, right? I am also the founder of Girl, Get That Money. We are a business empowerment coaching and consultancy firm. I'm also the founder of the Green Street Academy, where we teach you the basics of investing in cannabis stocks. Now, the goal of our show is to highlight minority entrepreneurs in the space and share weekly news updates about what they're doing in and for the industry as a whole. We interview minority entrepreneurs, minority-owned companies, companies that support social equity applicants, and a host of other cannabis industry leaders and pioneers in the space. So joining me today are my very special guests, best-selling author, Dr. Bridget Williams, MD. We have Adilah Anwar and Franny Tacy, three of the many co-authors of a new book compilation of entrepreneurs and their stories about courage in cannabis. When we return from our commercial break, we'll catch you up on the latest news about minorities in cannabis, and then we'll also learn more about these amazing authors and their journeys into the cannabis industry. So if you're watching us on Facebook, now is a great time to share the link, click the button, and mention us in your timeline. And hey, tag a few friends too, so that they can be watching as well. We'll see you right after these messages.
It is the budding dispensary of knowledge.
We want to be more than just the PubMed of cannabis, the Google Scholar of cannabis. We want to be a continuing education platform that is easily accessible.
We see this as being able to leave a legacy for the entire industry and really elevate this plant to where it deserves to be.
Staying alive was no job at second hand. Moms bounced on old men.
Hey, we are back, and thank you so much for joining us today. Again, this is the Cannabis Minority Report podcast. I am your host, Khadijah Adams. So in the latest news, you guys, the Library of New Jersey hosts an expungement clinic on November 23rd in West Orange. And they're actually going to be hosting this for people who actually have previous nonviolent marijuana cases, that if they're looking to get this expunged, then the event is actually free to attend. However, you do have to pay a $75 fee to the state, but everything else is actually covered. So if that's you that we're talking to, make sure you get with Corey Dishman and Charles Penn, the founders of the Library of New Jersey. Again, they're going to be hosting an expungement clinic on November 23rd in West Orange. And I believe the name of the place is the Cambria Hotel at 12 Rooney Circle in West Orange, New Jersey. Also in the news, Virginia Minority Cannabis Coalition launched a boot camp for entrepreneurs. Now, the Virginia-based nonprofit organization, it empowers Black and Brown communities to become shareholders in the cannabis industry. They have actually opened applications for their virtual fall 2021 Cannabis Entrepreneur Boot Camp. They started this past Saturday, November the 6th. And what I love about it is that the boot camp provides a step-by-step playbook to create a successful business plan, connections to help you run your business, support to finance your business, and most importantly, a community that is full of like-minded individuals willing to network and actually support you. Now, the boot camp is actually meant for someone who has been impacted by cannabis arrests or convictions. Also, if you've been directly related to someone with cannabis-related justice issues or involvement. And also, if you've spent 3 of the last 5 years in the area with high unemployment levels, low income levels, and or high poverty, you actually qualify. And if you also attended a historically Black college or university or HBCU. And then finally, if you are in the legacy or been in the legacy market and want to legitimize your business, then they actually help you get started in your business. So for more information about that, go to VMCC, that's Virginia Minority Cannabis Coalition, vmccequity.org. And then, man, I tell you, I'm kind of just, I love California, don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of disappointed to hear this particular news. You know, a California-based entrepreneur, an African-American brother in cannabis, Donnie Anderson, to be exact, had no shop and no prospects and a mountain of debt. So $500,000 in nearly 4 years into his Los Angeles-based cannabis venture, where he has raised capital from family and friends, was paying $6,000 a month for a space since January 2018 for his new cannabis retail shop, had to completely just, you know, he's not really given up, but he's closing his doors because the city is so far behind and have been dragging their feet on the permitting process. So, you know, Donnie, you know, we're sorry to hear about that, but, you know, I tell you, the social equity programs were actually supposed to help people of color and those formerly incarcerated for cannabis crimes. They were supposed to help them get licensed and run all types of businesses. And so many people got totally burnt, according to Christine De La Rosa, who is the co-founder and CEO of the People's Ecosystem. And here's what's interesting, you guys. The main problem, according to De La Rosa, is that the social equity programs don't help enough with the financial side. And so you have people like Donnie Anderson, who has come out of pocket, who's raised money from family and friends, just only to wait and wait and wait on the city. And the city is still dragging its feet. It's showing you another technique and how they are actually blocking us out of the industry. And it's just really sad. It's a sad situation. Donnie, our hats off to you. We wish you well. Hang in there. We're all rooting for you. Next, the Black farmers left behind in Florida's medical marijuana boom. So Ray Worthen, a fifth-generation Black farmer, has his eye on Florida's burgeoning $1 billion medical marijuana cash crop. He's already made a mark in Orlando's neighborhood, Paramore neighborhood, transforming a city lot into a community farm with beehives, bananas, collard greens, and other plants. But guess what? He and the other Black farmers have been left behind in the Florida's green rush. So none of the state's 22 licenses, y'all, to grow and dispense medical cannabis is held by a Black-owned business. Sad. Florida, you need to get it together, okay? Because this is 2021 going into 2022. It's not like it used to be, okay? Now, the application fee alone, you guys, is $146,000, and the money isn't refundable. So even if you are of African-American descent and you come up and you with that $146,000, there's no guarantee that you're going to even get a license, and it's non-refundable. That's crazy. And there's a $5 million performance bond that you must also post. $5 million. Okay, if that's not saying we don't want you in the industry, I don't know what is. Okay, so Florida, you know, it's a wrap with y'all. Seriously, you need to pull it together. And then finally, on a good note, okay, let's do this on a good note. Let's end the news on a good note. I am super excited for Whitney Beatty, CEO and founder, along with her partner, Ebony Anderson, who have developed the new Los Angeles-based dispensary that will create a welcoming and educational retail experience for women of color. It is called Josephine and Billy's. I love that. It's amazing because it's actually named after famed American-born French entertainer and actress Josephine Baker and legendary jazz singer Billie Holiday. And so super excited about that. And not only that, these women were able to get the parent company, which is a cannabis venture that is backed by rapper Jay-Z, to actually support them. I met Whitney Beatty years ago, and I've seen her from the Apothecary case, go from the Apothecary case to now Josephine's and Billy's, and I'm very sure it's not only successful, but will absolutely change things for women of color in Los Angeles. So congratulations, we're wishing you the best success for Josephine's and Billy's. Now, when we return, We're going to learn more about these amazing co-authors of this new book compilation that reveals their stories about their courage in cannabis. So if you're watching us on Facebook, now is the time to really click on that button and share, and also tag some of your friends so that they can watch along with you. We'll be back right after these messages.
Good evening from West Orange, New Jersey. My name is Corey Dishman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Library of New Jersey.
My name is Charles Penn. I'm the president and co-founder of the Library of New Jersey.
Library of New Jersey is a diversely owned company seeking entry into New Jersey's cannabis market. Our 4 pillars are community, education, equality, and equity. We're also social equity advocates.
Speaking of community, we're holding an event on the 23rd of this month at the Cambria Hotel right behind us here in West Orange between the hours of 12 and 7 p.m. I want you to come out if you have any non-violent marijuana charges that you would like to be expunged off your record. The only thing you have to pay is a $75 filing fee from the state of New Jersey. All other legal costs are covered by us for that event. I would love to thank Ascend and Air Wellness for sponsoring the event. And I also would love to thank Master Pizza, Sandwiches Unlimited, and Target for providing refreshments for the evening.
Hope to see you there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you from the Library of New Jersey.
Peace.
All right, we are back with best-selling author Dr. Bridget Williams, Adilah Anwar, and Franny Tacy, 3 of the many co-authors of a new book compilation of entrepreneurs and their stories about their courage in cannabis. So I want to welcome you ladies to the Cannabis Minority Report podcast. Usually I would read out your bios, but I want to give it to you and have you just go around and share just a little bit about you and what you do in the industry. And we're going to start with best-selling author Dr. Bridget Williams. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Great,
now.
sir. How are you today?
I am doing great. Can you tell our audience just a little bit about you, and then tell us what is courage in cannabis and why was it created?
Yes, absolutely. So I am a family physician, 20 years about at the Cleveland Clinic, and frustrated with the way medicine was going. So I decided to take the path of cannabis, really treating patients the way that they were really asking me to treat them. More time, more patient-centered care. And so I opened my own offices, Green Harvest Health, and in the process, my own CBD company as well. And so along the way, I love stories. I think that's why I like being a physician, because I'm interested in the stories of my patients and how we can rewrite their stories. And I realize in cannabis, there are so many unique and interesting stories. And if we don't grab these now, in 2 generations, they'll be gone. So I created Courage in Cannabis to reflect that.
Very good. I love that. I love the name. So why the name Courage in Cannabis?
So I realized that for everyone, however they get involved with cannabis, whether they are entrepreneurs or patients or caregivers or any place that you decide to step into the space, you really were going against the norm. It was only, 2 minutes ago that all of this was illegal, right? And so at this point, if you decide to break out of traditional business or traditional medical treatments, you really are taking a leap, and that takes courage. And so I wanted stories that were about the patients. I also wanted stories about everyone in the cannabis industry, because all of those stories are significant and will really inspire other people.
Very good. Absolutely. I love that, your line of reasoning on that. So why a compilation, and can you tell us, has this ever been done in the cannabis industry before?
Sure. So a compilation, honestly, maybe about 2 years ago, I was so intrigued by the stories of my patients. I was kind of jotting them down on the side as I was seeing them, because I was so moved by what people experience. And even just doing medical cannabis cards, and some of my patients had tears because they felt they finally were no longer doing something wrong. They finally felt free in having that card. And I actually pulled them together. I had someone that was actually interested, and possibly publishing them. And something really grabbed me, that I felt like they weren't my stories, that I shouldn't be telling the stories of other people. And so I sat back on it for a little bit. And then when I realized that I could actually do an anthology, a compilation, and bringing people together and let them tell their own stories and letting them benefit from their own stories, that felt like the right fit for me.
I love that. And how many authors are involved and has participated in this collaboration?
Sure. So there are 18 of us in total, and we are doctors and lawyers and patients and caregivers and activists and legacy growers and people that have dealt with addiction, people that have honestly been healed with cannabis. And so there's stories for every walk of life. We have a number of entrepreneurs and businesses in there as well that really tell their story of how cannabis changed their lives and how they changed other people's lives through it.
Absolutely. And hey, I'm one of those featured authors.
Yes,
So I'm
yes,
really
you are.
excited, and thank you. I appreciate the opportunity for sure. So who can actually benefit from reading this compilation of stories?
Absolutely. So there are here and there have been patient collections of stories before, but there really hasn't been a collection that really spanned the cannabis industry like this book. So I think it's for everyone because of that, whether you're interested in joining the industry and are looking for inspiration, whether you're a caregiver or a patient and wondering if cannabis is for you, whether you're looking for if you can go from the legacy market and enter into a legitimate form or legal form of cannabis, there's something in this book for everybody.
Fantastic. Well, wow. Okay. All right. So I'm loving this right now. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to participate, not only to show support, but I believe we all have a story, right? And to be able to tell that story and to share that story with the world really allows you to break through all kinds of barriers, because everybody's story can help somebody out there, even if it's just one person. So thank you so much for putting this together. And let's move to our next authors, and let's start with Adilah Anwar. How are you? Can you tell our audience a little bit about you? And then can you answer the question, why is it important for you to share your story in the Courage in Cannabis?
Well, my name is Adilah Anwar, and I am a senior consultant with Deloitte. Outside of that, though, because I don't like to pride myself just on what I do, I like to give back. So I work right now voluntarily as the chairwoman for the National Association of Compliance and Risk Management Professionals. I'm the chair also of our cannabis committee. So that's what I do. I work in the technology space, essentially building systems for banks. So, that's a little bit of my background in technology and in career. Now, about the organization itself, we are a risk compliance organization that is centered around the individuals of Black and Brown people representing different work industries. So essentially what we do is we try to bridge the gap in that DEI clause, and we try to bring it in towards providing opportunities, and like Dr. Bridget said, those legacy and that generational aspect to kind of pass along information that wasn't received in many previous years due to different laws and communities. Now, with that being said, my bridge into the cannabis industry is advocating and getting that work group open under this DEI clause, because as you know, there's many organizations that don't have the proper representation, whereas now there's a law that's in place by the SEC, which requires certain businesses and corporate institutions to have representation all from all across the board in all different spaces. That includes women, that includes people who identify as gay and a lesbian, and also people who identify, also people who are Black and brown. So this kinds of bridge those gaps of the people who are or were outcasts in society previously. And basically, by cannabis being a new industry, we want to ensure that everyone is represented in this industry on a business perspective, and also from a perspective of risk and compliance management, because that's what we do. We do risk and compliance management. And since this is a new industry, we kind of want to, dig in here and understand the rules of engagement, but at the same time, making sure there's representation through and through.
Right. Awesome. That's amazing. And so tell us about your story in cannabis and why you wanted to participate as an author and really share your story in this book.
Well, I met Dr. Bridget at a cannabis convention. And at the time, I was just advocating, for us to learn more about what it is that she does. And, before then, I'm an entrepreneur in the cannabis space, trying to build those grower internships and grower people who are licensed as growers to allow them to grow on property that I acquired. So essentially that was, my way in, but the rest I feel was just seeing the need. And by getting into the industry and learning more, meeting people like Dr. Bridget and Kevin Green, this is basically the formulation of a formal way of conducting business that no one yet is privy to. These are people who already are owning business, but now my way of getting into cannabis was, how do we bridge the gap in between business and Main Street? How do we get people, I would say not qualified, but how do we get people feeling happy about what they're doing in the cannabis industry instead of feeling like they are robbing or maybe doing something still legal, because it's still a mindset that we have. Mm-hmm. And then as business continues, then are we making illegal money still, or is this a way where society has accepted, whereas everybody should get on board and we should put some systems in place so that we can indemnify it now?
Right. Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. So now we'd like to go to Franny Tacy. Hi, Franny. How are you?
I am so solid, but also so ecstatic to be here with you three dynamic women that just made me feel like the Grinch when their heart grew 3 sizes too big for each one of y'all, what everybody is doing and what Dr. Bridget has brought all of us together to share. So
absolutely. Can you tell our audience a little bit about you and tell us about, why it's important for you to share your story in Courage in Cannabis?
Yes, absolutely. It's so important for me to share this story because I grew up, and I always say I'm a farmer. I was born a farmer, died a farmer, although it's never been my profession until I was in a corporate career of pharmaceuticals, and I have a farm. I always said pharma to farm. I live a healthy life, was inspired by The Emperor Wears No Clothes when I was in forestry school back in the 80s out west. So I was the first female farmer to plant hemp in North Carolina. And from there, the first person in the country to do a TED Talk on hemp as a crop and put everything before pharmaceuticals. I had a master's in education, was so about destigmatizing. It is very obvious that, through our social system, so many people have been in prison, have done so much to legalize this crop. It's time that we bring it into the mainstream with the integrity and connection and education that women bring to an industry. So,
absolutely.
Started a Women in Hemp nonprofit so we could fund research. Couldn't even find a way to fund research in hemp because there's no grants or money for that stuff. So we did it, and 5 female researchers 3 years ago in North Carolina have taken this to first studies and trials, and it just continues to be a snowball that we're all packing, and our momentum is amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And so without giving away your story, what can people expect to walk away with after reading your story? Any lessons, tools, knowledge? What can they walk away with?
You better believe it, because my claim to fame is I will tell you anything, and I'm the best example you'll find because I'm vertically integrated. I've done it all, and I'll tell you exactly what to do and exactly what not to do, because I made all the mistakes. When you're first, there was no support, so I just had to do it all. And so I've got great tips in there about how you don't have to do it all, about what it takes. For me, I love when Dr. Bridget was talking about courage, because there is so much courage it takes to do this. It's not really a fight, it's an awakening. People call it, revolutionary. It's a revival. It's bringing back, it's helping people remember. So I am always filled with tips, tricks, lessons, and connections of how to find us. That's what we're all here to do, is help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So as a woman entrepreneur, right? How important is it to you to collaborate with other women in business?
It is the most important thing for me, especially right now, as I took over as CEO of all 8 of my businesses, being vertically integrated, coming out of over a year of mergers and acquisitions where I'm the only woman at the table.
Wow.
I have been the only woman in conferences and speaking with over 100 attendees. I am in the minority everywhere I go. The first cannabis conference I spoke at, there were 416 speakers in Colorado, and 6 of them were women. And I walked away with my hands in the air and I said, don't ever ask me to come back. Don't ever do anything. This is not representation of any industry. This is not how we grow together. So being a woman, and I love men, don't get me wrong. We're all in business and we're all elevating this together, but some of the collaborations through research, and in every single, I manufacture our packaging, fair trade packaging, everything that is for the collective and the big picture of growing the industry has been done through collaborations with women. It's been done. Yeah. We're doing it right now. It's super important.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I want to pose that same question to Adilah. So as a woman entrepreneur, how important is it to you to collaborate with other women in business, Adilah?
It's extremely important. I'm the product of a strong woman, a strong Black woman that raised 6 children and held down a corporate career. I'm doing this not just for myself to be able to work under the confines of just being a woman, but this is it's not a condition being a woman. It's our gender. And fortunately, we do have the skills and the tolerance to run and lead. And like Franny is saying, we need to be represented more across the board. And I'm a top supporter of women because I work in an industry where there's less women. In technology, there are women, but it's not enough. And a lot of the rooms that I'm in, it's just men. It's male dominated. And, basically we get put down for being aggressive, but we get our work done. We get the job done. So we should never be discounted.
We hear that all the time, don't we? We hear that all the time. It's like when we're frustrated or when we're passionate about something, we come across as being aggressive. But when a man does it, right, it's not aggressive. He's like, yeah.
He's tactful. He's tactful. Oh, he's tactful.
Right.
Being in this new world, because that's what's happening. We have new orders that we have to live by and associate by. It is even more so important that we have a being representing, such as a woman, who is out here advocating and ensuring that we're doing things to the level of quality, but also able to multitask.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I forgot about that part, huh? Because we do have 8 arms, I can tell you that. So without giving away your story, Adilah, tell everyone, what can they expect and walk away with after reading your story and Courage in Cannabis? Is that tools, lessons, knowledge? What can they walk away with?
I believe we are going to walk away from my piece with understanding your power, your level of authenticity as an individual and as a person. And on top of which, you being able to stand up when things are done in a normal way and do something else different. The courage, in fact, is, that is courage. Courage is being able to do something that nobody else is willing to do. And that is what is illustrated in my piece. To me, the definition of courage, you being able to walk in that plight, being a career professional, being in corporate, not caring what the guys think, not caring what anyone thinks, because this is what you're going to do. And you're going to get the support that you need behind you. And that's what it's going to talk about. Getting support and
I
getting
love
courage.
that. I can't wait to read your story. That's exciting. So Dr. Bridget, right? I'm excited to read your story, Dr. Bridget. So can you tell our audience why it was important for you to share your story in Courage in Cannabis? And what will people walk away with after reading your story, Dr. Bridget?
Absolutely. I'm just realizing just now that I've read everybody's, but no one has read mine. So that has not occurred to me until just now. So I think it was important for me to share my story because I believe, number one, I think in medicine that, doctors are not forthcoming. It's the way that we're trained, right? That we focus on the patient. And to be honest, if you're thinking about the doctors that unless you've had them for decades, you probably don't know them that well, but they know you, right? And I wanted to humanize really who I am, and also to give people insight into finding their sweet spot in life, right? And so whatever that might be, if you're not invited to the table, create your own. If you're in a place where you're not being celebrated, if you're not being appreciated, then it's probably time for you to move on where you will be. And I think often I see people get stuck and then really start to believe that they don't have a lot to offer. And that means go and find where you do, because that's where you will blossom and that's where you will succeed. So I wanted to give people inspiration in that. That's what cannabis, I basically in the book, I basically say that cannabis brought my joy back on many different levels. And I've been able to blossom by being a part of this industry.
I love that. I love that. Now, I would ask you the collaboration part, but you put this book together. That's a lot of collaboration, not just with women, but also there's some men too that are authors or co-authors in Courage in Cannabis. And so let me ask you this question. As a woman entrepreneur, how important is collaboration with other women entrepreneurs? And what type of advice would you give women who are seeking to enter the industry?
Absolutely. So first of all, Courage in Cannabis is what I pray and I plan is the first of many books that we do in this area. Really, this one is a general book, but to highlight different groups, different conditions over time, so that people are able to find the inspiration that they're looking for in the series, and to give people an opportunity not just to write their story, but to heal from their story. For a lot of our authors, this has been a journey for them to actually step out of the shadows and share their story in cannabis. So that in itself is really important to me, the healing part. As far as being a woman in cannabis and how to kind of forge your way, first of all, I think you can't hide. That's what I saw was happening with a lot of my colleagues, was that they were hiding. You have to go to the conference, have a plan, and start talking. You have to be willing to share and to be able to take advice and to be able to find of ways to implement it, right? As long as you have a million great ideas and you're, sitting at your kitchen table and never stepping out, there's not any real way for them to come to fruition. You have to be able to meet and greet and talk and connect, truly connect with others, and follow up. I think that's the biggest thing that I see women and men do, I think, is that they go to these conferences, they make connections, they never call anybody back. They never say, hey, I want to meet for lunch. They never make those efforts. You have to make the connections.
I love that. And you're so right. Going to these conferences is really, really, really important. Even speaking at these conferences is really important, but the key and the fortune is actually in the follow-up. So you're absolutely right. Whether that's fortune in creating relationships, fortune in creating monetary relationships, or fortune in just connecting and meeting new people. So thank you for that. We're going to go back to Franny real quick, because I want to ask her, as one of the first women, or the first woman in your area, in your space, what type of advice would you give women that want to come in and maybe do what Franny is doing?
Well, I always say, find a mentor. And we are so grateful and fortunate that now there's a bunch of people that can actually do this mentor. And so much to the fact that we even set this up in our system so that people come in and we help give them advice. But it's so important to be true to who you are, go inward. We all know on the outside that cannabis is great. There's a million different billion-dollar industry, 50 different ways to use it, a million different ways we can get involved. So just as I said 4 years ago when I ended that TED Talk, if you're a banker, an attorney, you can keep doing what you're doing and integrate cannabis. That is the future of where we are all going. Do what you're best at, what moves all three of your brains in your head, your heart, and your gut. That is where your path needs to lead you, and find the people. Find the people. That's what we've all been talking about, is the connections.
Yeah.
And I'm still looking for my first African-American franchise owner, and I'm hoping it's a female. I've got 3 I'm interviewing right now. It's so important to connect. And just what you said, they were like, what do? I have a farm. I'm like, oh, sister, let me throw you in the pipeline. We got connections. Because every state is different.
Yeah.
So find your place. And for anybody, no matter where they want to be in any part of this industry, please contact your secretary, your Department of Agriculture. Like in North Carolina, it's NCDA, Department of Agriculture. In Virginia, Connecticut, wherever you are, they have the list of all the people, the extension services. Start there, because you always want to be connected to the goddess, the female plant, and the farm. We have to remember where it comes from. So that is a great piece of advice. Start there.
Yeah, I love that. And so that brings me to my next question, because you touched on it a little bit, but I want you to kind of dig in there for me. Collaboration. You're going to be collaborating with women and offering a franchise model, right? And so how important, not only is that, but how important is it for a woman coming into the industry to really collaborate with other women versus competing, Franny? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this every time. We're not big enough. We haven't reached the market to even consider competing. And I mean, this is all about collaborations. More is more is more, and it needs to be founded in ethics and values. And that's where women in collaborating have come from. I'm happy to say, as I took over my businesses, the first 3 franchises were women. What they do different than others, they are so involved in their community, in nonprofits, in their community, where they're giving back, and they're doing private educational resources for the healthcare workers there and the blue collar workers, the way they're integrating. And I'm even really thrilled to say that our franchise owner out of Athens, who is a male, has been a mentor to all these women about how they're getting in their communities. We have no choice. If you want to thrive and survive, this is the way we do it together.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that girls compete, but women empower. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to go back to Dr. Bridget. And please, can you tell us, when is this book scheduled to be released? And can we order pre copies? I mean, can we pre-order the copies? And if so, where can we find it?
Absolutely. So we are planning to launch digitally. I'm pretty sure mid-December, maybe a little bit closer to Christmas. And so our book will be available on Amazon. And of course, all of our authors will have the ability to also sell it as well. We don't pre-order before the launch, but we do a huge digital campaign on launch day, which will be really exciting. And then after that, you can pre-order paperbacks after the launch day.
Wow, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I am just so loving it. Ladies, or women, I should say, excuse me, women, sisters, collaborating together with this book. It's just been so exciting to have you on as guests. In fact, the whole month of November, you guys, we are doing nothing but interviewing co-authors of Courage in Cannabis.
Yeah.
And so every Monday this month in November, we're going to be interviewing the co-authors of Courage in Cannabis, and just really excited to have you guys join us today. And we want to have you back though after the book has launched. Okay. We want to have you back. We want to find out where you are in your progress individually. And so we're going to reach out to y'all individually to have you on as individual guests. So we're super excited about that. Thank you so much for joining us. You are welcome to stay on, but you guys will be back right after this. If you want to subscribe to the Cannabis Minority Report on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or on your favorite platforms, be sure that you look us up, okay? So that way you guys can subscribe. But we're going to come back right after these messages. Hey, you guys, we are back again with best-selling author Dr. Bridget Williams, MD, out of Ohio, and also Adilah Anwar and Franny Tacy. And so we're going to give the mic to Adilah first and have her say a few encouraging words and kind of pass the mic to Franny, and then Dr. Williams will close for us. How about that?
Well, I would just like to let the audience know we're providing resources and information to, essentially help people get started in the industry from start to finish. And basically, I would just encourage everyone to pick up this book, because not only is the book a research in itself, but it also tells you, we're storytelling for the century, of our time. This is a way of documenting that. And that's the way that some of our founding fathers documented their experience in this world. And I believe that we're documenting our experience coming into this new world. So I would encourage everyone to buy a copy and read it.
Thank you. And Franny?
Well, yes, what a pleasure to be with everybody today. Please, we encourage you. We look forward to you interacting with us. There's a lot of ways to do that. Franny's Pharmacy, Franny's with a Y, and pharmacy is FARMACY, because we're putting the farm back in there. There's a million ways to find us. There's social media, website, and you can even find me personally, Franny Tacy, or our farm, Franny's Farm, and just come stay. It's fall in the mountains. It's beautiful. Come stay with us.
Thank you, Franny. Thank you so much. Dr. Williams.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having us on today, Khadijah, and then giving us an opportunity to talk about Courage in Cannabis. It's definitely a passion project, and I do think that it can really inspire and change people. And so I look forward to people getting this in their hands. They can follow our progression as we're pulling the book together on Courage in Can, CANN books, or Courage in Cannabis on Facebook. And so you'll watch our journey as we promote our authors and share the progress. And at this point, when it comes to cannabis, definitely in the United States, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. We're here, and we're here to stay. And so this book is an excellent opportunity for enthusiasts and skeptics to learn a little bit more, to understand this new industry and culture that's developing.
Awesome. Awesome. Again, women, thank you so much. Women of power, okay, co-authors of Courage in Cannabis. Thanks for being with us. Next up, you guys, we want you to check out the NCIA's member news blog and the industry insight that includes our NCIA member spotlight series, and we'll also highlight some of our new members who have joined through our social equity scholarship program. Don't forget to download the NCIA's app. Yep, we do have a mobile app. So make sure that you download, because you get a chance to see Vince, my producer, when he gives updates and stuff like that, which is pretty damn amazing. So join us at this year's NCIA Cannabis Business Summit that takes place December 15th through the 17th in San Francisco, California. Yep, you know it, your girl will be there. Not only will I be there, I'm gonna be moderating the panel, and we're gonna be producing the Cannabis Minority Report podcast right there on site. So for more information, go to cannabisbusinesssummit.com. That's cannabisbusinesssummit.com, and get your tickets today. Special shout out to our DEI program sponsors, Tahoe Wellness Center. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support. The law offices of Omar Figueroa. You know I love you. He is so energetic, you guys. If y'all don't know attorney Omar Figueroa, y'all should look him up for real. He has some books out there as well. And then Copper State Farms. Thank you so much for sponsoring us. We really appreciate it. And we know we couldn't do any of these things without you. So we really appreciate that. And if you're looking to sponsor one of our episodes, make sure you get at me at info@khadijahadams.com, info@khadijahadams.com, and we can help you actually do that. If you're looking to run your commercials, because we saw, and I'm sure you guys saw those commercials running, if you're looking to run your 30-second or 1-minute commercial on our show, make sure you email me at info@khadijahadams.com. The mission of the DEIC committee is to educate, to advocate, to engage and empower the community of cannabis and its members by cultivating partnerships with other nonprofit organizations with similar goals, providing resources that create and also sustain an environment that is not only inclusive, but is equitable and also diverse. We are committed to building a culture that respects our members and celebrates their contributions and celebrates their triumphs, right, in the cannabis industry, as we work together to strengthen all communities in cannabis. Do you know someone that you think should be interviewed on our show here at the Cannabis Minority Report? And if you do, you better drop your girl a line, right? At info@khadijahadams.com. Until next Monday, peace, love, and hippie stuff.
NCIA's Cannabis Minority Report is a product of the National Cannabis Industry Association and NCIA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We are hosted every week by Khadijah Adams. Our executive producers are Aaron Smith and Vince Chandler. We are directed by Vince Chandler and produced by Bethany Moore. Please, please, please find out everything you can about the growing and equitable cannabis industry at thecannabisindustry.org.